And call the meeting to order at this point, and would someone,
I will not. I motion that we nominate Mr. Fletcher.
for this meeting and this meeting only?
Yes, from here on, no, from this meeting only. It would be the vice chair or the chair?
Temporary chair.
Temporary chair.
Temporary vice chair.
Yeah.
Very good.
All in favor?
I'll second.
Second,
I'll second.
Okay.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead. So we'll move to the first thing here to confirm that the staff has made the proper announcements for the Kansas Open Meeting Act.
It has.
Very good. And we'll start with roll call.
You just say your name.
Just say your name.
Jackson Angel.
Melanie Hedgepath.
Jim Fletcher.
Denny Walgren.
Matthew Smith.
Bruce Richardson?
Very good, thank you. Next, we have introduction of guests.
We have a few guests with us today that are on the agenda for new business. I also want to make sure we introduce our new youth Parks and Rec Advisory Board member, Jackson Angel.
Hello.
Welcome, Jackson.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good deal. Where do you go to school at?
I go to Central.
To Central. Okay, good deal.
Hey, Central.
Welcome, and we're glad to have you here. We'd like to get the youth perspective as well.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Talk through things. So we'll move to Citizens Forum next. Do we have anyone who'd like to present to the advisory committee? Seeing none, we'll move into the approval of the agenda. The agenda that was sent out prior to this meeting digitally to everyone.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion.
I'll second it.
A second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. I'm sorry, I'm used to raising my hand. Not the aye, so. Okay. We'll go to the aye. All in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. So we'll move into the approval of the minutes. These were sent out prior to the meeting and reviewed by committee members beforehand.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve
Second it?
in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move to activity reports. Mr. Handy.
Lots of information available in the activity report. A few items I want to point out is staff has been meeting for a special event permit that the city was submitted to the city for a marathon. That's November 5th, Crossroads Marathon, and going to be involving several parks, and there's a large route. Let's see, landscape consultants. So we hired landscape consultants to do our spring startup of the Santa Fe beds, perennial flower beds, perennial plant beds, and also start up the irrigation and add mulch. And let's see. In recreation, we've always had a babysitting class. Previously we did it through the American Red Cross. We started with a program called Safe Sitter, and we've had some recent classes with that, very successful classes, sold out classes. So there's a demand for babysitting classes within the city.
Mr. Hammond, real quick on that, is that something that would be a partnership with Solana Tech through their new child care program?
That's a possibility we can certainly look into. Because we have the ability to certify other instructors, and that would be a great partnership. And I'm not sure, did we talk about the bollards at Bill Burke last meeting? We had baseball, softball bollards installed at Bill Burke, and very visually appealing. Those were ordered by Mr. Shaley here and installed by Troy Reinert, our facility maintenance supervisor. or facility superintendent. And those are some of the highlights I wanted to point out. There's plenty of information there, though.
Question on Kenwood, I mean, are the positions filling up now better than what's on the list right here? Or is it still kind of a struggle to get, the lifeguards and the other positions filled?
I wish I had Andrea here to give you a current status, but we're struggling. We are. And I just wanted to give you an example of, I wanted to speak to summer camp. We've had that Solana Fieldhouse summer camp for a long time. We had 2 applicants, 2. And became very aware what the problem was, and so we reached out for a grant, the Child Care Aware Grant. So we're hoping that will supplement the wage, increase that's needed we're still going to try to offer that camp, but staffing levels, I'm sure Rick, everybody's in the same boat. We're struggling there, but we're trying to get them. But I can get you a current status on Kenwood Cove, more specific to your question. But as far as I know, she had interviews the last 2 weeks, so I'm assuming that those numbers have increased a little bit, but we're still in need of positions.
Well, I mean, because what was glaring to me when I read through this originally was just still needed to fill 30 to 40 positions for lifeguards. With only 21 now, that's pretty substantial, with summer just right around the corner.
It's just a basis of history for me. I previously ran the water park. It's not unusual to be at those 20 to 30 numbers this time of year, and then it ramps up as, the nature of youth, I guess you would say, are looking for jobs. They don't think about it ahead of time. They do think about it as they get closer to the end of the year. So I would expect that it's going to be hot and heavy for water park hiring as we get close to that Memorial Day weekend.
That's good.
I'll piggyback on that as well. As far as umpires go, we've campaigned a little more for that on the front side. Each one of us went to each high school or college team just to take 2 minutes out of their time to try to recruit umpires. And we did that early before coaches had to make cuts and everything. So we tried, and we're starting to see some of those applicants a little earlier. And then plus we have some of our staff from last year still on, payroll in the system. So that's a plus compared to where we were at when COVID hit. We had to completely put everybody back in the payroll system. So we feel we're a little ahead there, but we're still short. From what I'm seeing so far, I think we'll be lucky to have 1 umpire per field, let alone 2. And that was the same boat last year.
And if you would recall, back in December, this board, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, did review and approve cost recovery numbers and recommendations for cost recovery fees for the pool. We brought that to the City Commission in January or February, and with the result of those fee increases for the daily pass and memberships, we were able to be a little more flexible with our hiring wage scale to try to recruit some of those people that we need to operate the water park. And Andrea, I know, has been taking advantage of that to try to get a little more competitive with the wages we're able to offer.
As we work through things like that with the water park, I know we've got maintenance on there as well. Obviously, the exchange is probably in the availability of services. So how does that affect things like scheduling, areas of the pool being open, stuff like that?
If we, of course, don't have staff, specifically lifeguard staff, obviously it's a safety-sensitive position. It's a matter of life safety that we be able to watch water. There's always that judgment call on a daily basis sometimes about what you have versus what you can watch, and not overextending a individual's ability to watch more water than they should. you probably recall in 2019, we had, from personal experience, we had started with approximately 42 lifeguards. And however, that summer, we did not have the lap pool open frequently. I mean, it was open when I was able to staff the lap pool. So those decisions do have to be made on occasion. Last summer with Andrea, we had 48 lifeguards to start the season. However, how she scheduled, how she maintained a consistent service delivery, if you will, of all the available items, including the lap pool.
I think that's a remarkable piece to put out there. I mean, thinking of that 48 lifeguards to run our pool.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous thing, and it's just a part of what your department does.
And that number is not ideal. We would prefer to have 55, 55 to 60.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions regarding activity reports? So we would move to new business at this time. Tree City USA?
Well, we have Doug Rudick here available to speak to you regarding from the Tree Advisory Board. I'd like to invite Mr. Rudick up.
Hello, everybody. I still recognize a couple of you. For those that don't know, I spent 8 years on the board that you're sitting on right now. Yes, we sat at the tree board meeting last time, and we decided, I don't think people in Salina really know much about a tree board. We figured it was about time to get out and start making a little bit of noise and let people know what we've been doing and hope to do. So first thing, and we got to go to the awards ceremony out at the zoo, and Salina was presented with I'll read it to you here. The city of Salina has been designated for certification as a Tree City USA. The city has met the requirements set forth by the National Arbor Day Foundation and the Kansas Forest Service. This is the 32nd year consecutively that we have been a tree city. I don't know if a lot of people in town even know that, which is why we want to try to make a little noise. Now, some of the items that we want to address or bring to you guys' attention. Brett Lamer helped me draw this list up. First is we are a Tree City USA for the 32nd consecutive year. And I'm not sure of all the requirements for that, but part of it is you have to have a tree board, you have to have an Arbor Day event, and maybe some other things. But this is, we just felt like we need to start making a little noise. 2, Arbor Day is Friday, April 29th, and the tree board is having an event at Kansas Wesleyan at 1 p.m. We'll give out tips on how best to plant trees, and everyone is welcome to come. 3rd, some of these, this is kind of freaky. We have not done low limb requests since late 2019. We also want to raise up trees that would be otherwise to get them in compliance with our city code to help with the new trash trucks. We estimate the number of right-of-way trees at over 6,000 trees, and most of them would have to be trimmed. Now, if you're probably all aware, the new trash trucks were much taller than the old ones, and so what used to be okay for a truck to go by, they're now running into the tree limbs, and that messes up the trash pickup. We have done a couple of projects that have removed a lot of volunteer trees, the river cleanup in Oakdale Park, cleaning up behind the baseball fields at the former East Crawford Recreation Area. And with that said, this is what's kind of sad. With that said, we have removed 642 trees over the last 4 years. During that time, we've only planted 71. And 30 of those were part of that 9th Street project where they widened 9th Street and had to take all those trees out. I think we all know that trees benefit the city as far as aesthetics, as far as being important for nature. And to me, that just blew my mind to hear that they've only been able to replace 71 trees. Part of that is because in the last 9 years, they've only been fully staffed for 170 out of a total of 460 weeks, and are currently not at full staff, so that number will get worse before it gets better. For whatever reasons or whatever it's worth, the city is having trouble hiring staff and keeping staff for him. Part of it was COVID, where it was a lid put on it anyway, I believe, right? But maybe Rick can say that it's tough to find people to get this. And of course, you know, I see so many, and I know you do too, you see trees that are trimmed by just simply being topped. And from what Brett tells me and what I've read and learned, that is an absolute way to sign a tree's death sentence. Because if you just simply lop them off at the top, that leaves an open wound that they can't heal, tree can't heal very well. You get water and rain starts to collect on it, insects can get into it, and down the road, this tree's gone. He has, and maybe Rick can verify this, has let us know that actually that is against city code to top a tree. So if you see anybody topping a tree, call somebody here. Because they can go out and tell them to stop, issue them a citation, and from what Brett said, they could actually lose their license, if I'm correct, if they continue to do the wrong thing. I went out specifically and addressed this man that was topping this tree and complained about it, and he says, no, he says, we've been doing it this way for years. And he said, I do it all around town, and I said, I know, I see them all around town. I was pretty new on the tree board when that happened, otherwise I would have picked up the phone and called Brett, because I didn't realize we could do that. Obviously, the police don't have enough time to just go around looking for people topping trees. But keep that in your mind. Topping trees is a death sentence for a tree. Won't happen immediately, but down the road, that tree's just going to rot from not being able to heal. Brett says there is a chance that we can get 2 more employees in conjunction with Public Works to attempt to get caught up on trimming the right-of-way trees and park trees. And both you gentlemen probably know that he's tried to rob Peter to pay Paul, I think, to get people to help, and they just have not really been staffed to do an adequate job. These things concerned us on the tree board, and we just want to start bringing it to your guys' attention. While I was on this board, I may be wrong, but I don't really recall a presentation by the tree board that actually came and visited with us. And as such, if you'll still have us, I plan on seeing that we get here at least on a semi-regular basis, because I think this is too important to, number of diseased trees, and we just need to be able to water them. And he explained to us that even a lot of the trees they can get planted, they don't have enough staff to water them. And for that first year, you've really got to water those trees, or you might as well not plant them. So that's pretty much what I had to say and bring to your attention. If I can answer any questions, I'll try to. I'm new on the board myself, so Brett was going to be here, but he had another issue that can fix it so that he couldn't be here today. But if you've got anything you want to mention to us, I can take it back to our board. I believe in a way, I'm not sure, Jeff, I'm not sure if we are technically a subcommittee of this advisory board, but even if we're not, we want to make a little noise and bring things to your attention. That's what I've got. And I still recognize a couple of you. Okay,
Good deal.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and Plan Summary Presentation.
The current last week, a week ago Monday, there was a presentation made, it was a study session to City Commission about our master plan. Master plan was, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan was created in 2018 and recognized by City Commission. The master plan's available on our website. The full presentation I made was about an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes, but I summarized that presentation for your benefit today. But the full master plan document is on our website if you wish to review that. I did want to give you an overview of what we presented to the City Commission. When the master plan was created, it was identified that there was $5.6 million worth of deferred maintenance within our park system and open spaces that we are responsible for. There were 187 items identified that needed to be addressed of that deferred maintenance. And I gave that list to you there. Hopefully it's not too small. Tried to save paper. And I won't read them all to you, however, I did provide them to you. The presentation was basically going through an intro and providing some context to our plans for how we're addressing the master plan for the next year, year and a half, and what we're attempting to accomplish. The funding for master plan items comes from the city's sales tax initiative. We request about $500,000 a year from that sales tax initiative for capital improvements for parks. Through COVID, we have not spent some of that money. And you'll see a slide here that shows that we have a balance, a fund balance that we need to use, or that we have to spend to address some of these items. And the bulk of the presentation is how we intend on moving forward with addressing several of those items. Park improvements. And the purpose of the park improvements was to, and if Rick wants to add more things to this too, he may. We wanted to modernize certain items in our park. We want to make a consistent standard. So if you go to one park and go to the other park, or go to a destination park, go to a smaller neighborhood park, we want to be able to have this similar look and feel of drinking fountains, benches, picnic tables, signage. So with picnic tables, benches, ADA picnic tables, we have these in our system. Our intent is to give them a refresh and buy all new wood, have them painted, and install them, and to kind of turn over all of our benches. When I say turnover, I mean refresh them or refurbish them with new wood. Drinking fountains, our current standard of drinking fountain is what I show here. We have older concrete drinking fountains in many of our parks. We are planning on replacing those with this standard of drinking fountain. Grills, we identified several older model grills that we're going to replace. We have signage examples where we have older wood signs. We recently replaced 5 of the modern signs that were faded at Lakewood Park, Oxbow Park, Thomas, and Riverside Park. However, we have several parks that have the older wood sign, which is not our modern standard. We want to upgrade those to a modern standard. I gave a brief information about Jerry Ivy Pond. Currently, if you drive by Jerry Ivy Pond, Rick and his staff, and in partnership with utilities, our utilities department, we are draining the water out of Jerry Ivy Pond for the purpose of trying to address blue-green algae. And once we get to a certain point of it being drained, we have a well there. We're going to turn the well on and fill it back up. We've had a blue-green algae problem now for about 18 months, and that's not gone away. Some of the issues with Jerry Ivy Pond are, we have moisture behind the wall. We have a shallow, very shallow pond that allows light to get to the bottom, and for whatever nutrients are available to turn into that algae. It's not deep enough to create a colder temperature, so it's always warm. And so we are, Rick and I and park staff have been speaking with different people who are civil engineers and landscape architects to come up with some solutions and some price points of what we can do to make it happen, to try to renovate the entire space, the gazebo, the wall, the sidewalk, and provide a way to make sure we don't have blue-green algae in that space in the future.
I have a question about Jerry Ivy Park. Where is the plans that we previously went over to renovate the park, or where are we at in that process?
Well, that's probably part of my update right now.
Okay.
Is that we're trying to find a solution to make sure we don't have blue-green algae in the pond. And let's say we don't want to proceed down a road where we have landscape architects and civil engineers give us a plan, we execute the plan, and then a year, 18 months later, we have blue-green algae again. And what's that plan look like? How the problem is going to be solved with the water? We don't have those answers yet. We can design all kinds of crazy dreams, and but if it doesn't solve the problem of the water, then we're back to where we started.
So no concept's been approved, or, because I know we discussed and those, like, pretty much even taking out the pond. That was in one of the concepts, I guess.
There was 5 options.
Yes, and
One
so-
option was to remove the pond altogether. The survey that was done of the city, we surveyed about 580 different people that were within the city limits. 88% of those people wanted the water feature there.
Yes.
50% of them wanted the pond as is. About 28% of them wanted, were open to having the pond be a different size or different dimensions or different configuration, but they wanted a water feature of some kind. And we recognize that. And
part of the problem that we've had, just why we're at the point we are now, like Jeff said, sunlight, it's shallow enough sunlight gets in there, but we just have an overload of nutrients that are in the pond. So without having a circulation system or some way to put fresh water in there, take water out and put fresh water in, over the years, it's just compounded on itself. If any of you drove by there this last winter, I'm gonna get yelled at if I don't do this, but there would be thousands of geese on that pond and surrounding the pond. So then, anytime we get a little bit of runoff, all the fecal matter from those, some of it would get into the pond. So again, it just keeps compounding itself. So that's what Jeff said. We're trying to look at some options do we have a filter? Do we have a recirculating pump? Do we make it deeper, smaller, larger? Those are things that we have to look at. Part of the issue too is I've been talking to Wildlife and Parks. There's fish in there, rough fish, and they're bottom feeders. So when they're in there, they just stir up the bottom all the time, and that just brings a lot of those nutrients up, and that just enhances the blue-green algae as well. And same thing with the resident ducks and geese that are there. They keep contributing to the overload, so we kind of have a vicious cycle going there that we need to find a really legitimate way to take care of that.
So is it more of a temporary fix we're looking at right now?
It is.
Okay,
What we're doing right now by no means is going to solve the issue.
That's okay.
We're just trying to see how long this will buy us some time to do this.
There's certainly, like, as Rick mentioned, or Rick stated, there's certainly a phosphorus level, there's a nitrogen level still present in the sediment. And we still have thousands of geese and ducks that will contribute to that nitrogen and phosphorus load. So it is a temporary measure to make the pond look nicer and the water nicer. Moving on through my slides, rubber mulch. We have sand in some of our playgrounds. We're looking at buying mulch, engineered wood fiber mulch, rubber mulch. We have several playgrounds that have rubber mulch. We like to bring those back up to a normal level or to a desired level. The Parks and Recreation park restrooms, part of the master plan addressed many of our bathrooms. The problems with our bathrooms, they are, they're park bathrooms. There's wet floors, there's humidity, there's older fixtures. We have vandalism issues. Some of the scope of work that we would wish to address with these bathrooms are listed on a slide. Try to turn over air quicker through the bathroom. Epoxy floors, easier to clean. Put in some type of security system or security camera that's outside the bathroom. Standardizing fixtures in toilets and sinks. Any roof replacement that we would need to do, again, kind of modernizing, going to a more of a modern standard. I included some pictures of some work our facilities maintenance division did in a fire station number 3, with epoxy floors. And that's the product that we are going to put into our park bathrooms. And lastly, last section is sidewalks, ADA, parking, and concrete improvements. There are many parts of the master plan that have concrete needs. And we've listed some of those needs in picture form. Staff worked with engineering to get estimates for concrete. Currently, these concrete improvements that you see before you are being bid out by our engineering team through Public Works. It's on our website. And we should look forward to some of these concrete improvements in the fall of this year, starting this fall. Some of these funds you see with the Gypsum Hill Cemetery, the asphalt roads through the cemetery will be paid through the endowment fund, the cemetery endowment fund. The remainder will be paid through the master plan funds. Several improvements at Indian Rock Park, Jerry Ivy Park, Lakewood Park, and the last few slides where we have parks, Pacific Park, Pacific Park, Phillips Park, Riverside Park, Steve Hawley Park. We currently don't have parking or ADA parking for those parks, and this plan would make that happen. Lots of, as I stated before, lots of items in the master plan relating to parking, sidewalk connections from shelters to parking, and ramps for playgrounds. So you should expect in the next year to year and a half, a lot of our parks seeing work being done to them relating to some of the items you see here. One slide that didn't get included in the presentation to the City Commission was painting. There is a painting item for painting of shelters. I'm working on getting quotes for painting of shelters. So, if there's any questions regarding any of this presentation, I'd be happy to answer.
Bringing up the painting of shelters, the question I had as I was going through here, one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, projects underway, we've got some great tennis court action going on. That was item 177 when it was ranked. But there was a group of local citizens who popped up and said, we want to take that under our wing and make it happen.
Correct.
And that projected it in and got it into action. Not only did it help with the funding piece, but it also moved it up this list. As I go through here, I guess I'm thinking, are there not parts of this that could be somehow advertised out to the community? Because I know my involvement with the chamber, heck, even my church, is really wanting to revitalize Salina. And when I'm thinking about painting shelters, if we're not going to be able to do that because we're getting bids on it, is there not a volunteer organization that might not own that and say, hey, we want to be a part of that? I'm looking at ADA picnic tables. I'm a part of Ambucks, and I'm not going to throw those guys out there and say they do it right now, but I can tell you they've built over 500 handicap ramps going into houses, and they may take that on as a weekend project. I'm trying to think of, sometimes we can find ourselves within what we can do, but is there a way to parcel some of this out where some of the folks in our community could have a part in that too?
What I failed to mention, which I'm sure Rick is thinking right now, is several, well, depending on how many volunteers we get, the end of this month is Spring Spruce Up. And there are, well, I'll let Rick, would you mind speaking about that, Rick, about Spring Spruce Up and what the...
Sure. So I've been in close contact with Jane Anderson with Friends of the River, and she kind of heads up the Spring Spruce Up activities. And I think all total, with all the different projects she's got going on, I don't have it in front of me, but somewhere between 400 and 500 volunteers. Yeah. And for the park side of it, we're going to have between, it depends on if it rains or not, we'll keep our fingers crossed, but we could have between 60 and 80 volunteers for parks. We just spent $2,500 on paint and rollers and brushes. Awesome. So we'll have Kansas Wesleyan students, football team, volleyball team, and some others that hopefully we can kind of spread them out to 3 or 4 different parks, and in a 4-hour period, get a lot of this stuff knocked out. So we are working on that, and like Jeff said, and even on the tables, with my previous job, I worked closely with Department of Corrections. And Ellsworth Correctional Facility, they have a program where they try and get some of the inmates to learn some skills and so on. They said they might be willing in the wintertime, not so much in the summer because they try to get everybody out to different projects, but in the winter they like to have projects that come in. Picnic tables would be a prime example, where we could get, if we bought all the lumber, we could get it to them, they could router the edges and paint them, and even if we took the frames to them, if we had to purchase some new frames, they could construct the tables, and then we would just simply go, well, we would go pick them up and bring them back. So I am working on some of that, and also working with still waiting on some contacts with Solana Technical College, just to see if they could help out with some of those things as well.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and I don't know, just an idea in my head, sometimes it's overwhelming when you look at it all. I don't know if we could put together a wish list even.
But there are some other things, just like the barbecue grills, a relatively simple project. You dig a hole, put it in, get it level, put concrete around it, and, not that difficult to do. But again, it takes time and staff, so that would be a project that as we get further along, that other service organizations maybe could be involved in.
Gotcha. Was I the only one with questions on that? I'm sorry. Anyone else? Good job. Good job, Ted.
Well, I just want to point out, it wasn't me. Rick and his staff had a large contribution for the concrete portion and the park improvements portion. Troy Reinert in the back there, he had a large component of the restroom renovation project. So I just want to make sure it was all of us. And then engineering, our engineering department as well put together the estimates for the concrete.
Good deal. And hammering away at that list. It's quite the list.
No doubt.
No other questions or comments? We'll move to old business. Having none out there, we'll go to general announcements.
I wanted to give a brief report about tennis. We had attended our first tennis construction meeting this week. Construction started March 21st. They got a little slow start because of rain that week, but they've been doing substantial dirt work. Started pouring concrete this week for the hitting wall. If you drive by there, you'll see the looped parking, the drop-off lane, if you will, that's adjacent to Tony's Pizza Event Center. And as Travis mentioned, we have that grant for camp, and working on budgets, and so.
Good deal. All right, next item is adjournment.
One question, what was the feeling or decision as far as having somebody from your department be part of their board?
The legal opinion that was provided from the city attorney felt that, well, let me back up a minute. Salina Tennis Alliance was supportive of that. The legal opinion of the city was that since there are some contractual agreements going on with construction and with the maintenance agreement, they felt that this time it would not be something the city would want to be a part of.
Okay.
That your recommendation, however, was included in the presentation that I had made regarding the operating agreement for Salina Tennis Alliance.
But it's something that could be looked at in the future then?
Of course, yeah. We have, two separate contractual agreements going on right now, one for the construction and one now for the operating agreement. So, but certainly, I would anticipate during a budget year next year, for example, Salina Tennis Alliance would come to you and provide an annual report for for the past, and then an annual plan for the future, and make comparisons to what the plan was, what was previously presented to you, and what some changes that they're currently experiencing, so there are going to be some growing pains, of course. So, but that's definitely in their plans to present that annual plan to you as part of our budget review.
Okay.
Okay. Any other items? Motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Wait a minute.
Well,
I was hoping that I could slip in here in item 9, general announcement.
Want to come to the podium, Mr. Rudy? So we can capture your voice? Thank you.
This is in the form of a general announcement, I guess. Maybe you folks are aware of it, but I wanted to bring to your attention that there was a sensory garden on the patio at Lakewood Discovery Center. And if you're not familiar with what a sensory garden is, it's a garden that's put together for people with disabilities. We got this done with the cooperation of Lakewood and the city, Independent Connection, and Smoky Hills Audubon. And it was in actually last year, but I don't know if everybody's aware it's there, but the beds are elevated, so people that need to use wheelchairs can go right up and see the plants. They're a sensory garden in that they're plants that have textures like fuzzy leaves, things like mint they can smell. So if people that are visually impaired, they can have an idea of what's in this garden. And I think they even have a sound component with chimes and things. But I think it's just a wonderful way to open up Lakewood especially, but our park system to people with disabilities. And I was out there last week on Friday. They had a large group of people visually impaired throughout the whole Discovery Center utilizing that sensory garden, and also the staff there was doing a wonderful presentation where people could handle like one of the snakes and, different kinds of furs, pelts and things like that. So if you weren't aware of that, I think it's a hidden gem and something that needs to be, have the community be aware of. So anyway, that's all I had.
Thank you, Doug. Okay.
Thank you.
I guess I made the motion too soon.
Drag it.
We still have
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
We got 2 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.